everyone, welcome to another exciting episode of Dayspring Discussions. I'm your host, Sean McGahee, and this is a show where we talk about movies, TV, sci-fi, fantasy, comic books. If you geek out about it, we're going to talk about it. You can listen to Dayspring Discussions on iTunes, YouTube, Podomatic, Patreon, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Anchor, wherever, guys. While you're there, go and rate, review, subscribe, then head on over to the Facebook group and Twitter account and join the discussion. Don't forget dayspringdiscussions@gmail.com if you have your own question or comment. Well, hello everyone. Hope you are having a great week. I am joined today by none other than the Queen of Naboo herself, Miss Lisa Locke McGahee.
Hello.
All right, guys. Well, if Lisa's here, you know we've got one thing we're talking about: Star Wars. Yesterday was the series finale, period, of Star Wars: The Clone Wars on Disney+. Now, you knew we were going to talk about it, and I said that I wanted to wait for the 12 episodes for the season to be done, because I don't want to do episode by episode, but yesterday was the finale. It's over. It's done with. I think we can pretty much close the books on Clone Wars. So Lisa and I are going to share our feelings on the final season of Clone Wars. Probably going to talk a lot about the last couple of episodes mainly.
So there will be spoilers.
There will be spoilers, guys, exactly. So if you have not seen it, this is your warning. Pause, come back, and if you care about what we're talking about, I'm sure by now you've seen it, though.
Well, I mean, I'm not really sure how much spoilers there could be because everybody knows what comes after
exactly.
this.
You know what happens to the character. Exactly. So Anyway, we're going to go into details. You guys, of course, fire back on the social media groups and Gmail account. Let us know what you think. So, starting off, Star Wars: The Clone Wars, had a little bit of a bumpy ride, I guess, throughout its history. Started off 2008 with the movie. It kind of kicked everything off, released theatrically, and, wasn't really well loved by Star Wars fans and critics. But that was supposed to kick off the series, which continued up until 2013, when the series was canceled, mainly because that's when Disney had bought Lucasfilm. Now, Lucas Animation, they had already done several episodes. They're always working ahead there. So the following year, they released 12 episodes, season 6, the Lost Missions, as they call them, of the episodes that they had already all finished. And then other episodes that were halfway done, they released online. Some stories they had or scripts, they released in other ways, such as book form or comic books, stuff like that. So for years, fans were hoping for Clone Wars to come back. Finally, we got the announcement, I think it was 2 years ago, that Clone Wars was coming back for a final season. Dave Filoni getting to finish off Clone Wars and end it how he really wants to, which is how we got these 12 episodes here. So, I'm going to start off by saying, I don't want to say, hey, Lisa, what did you think of the final season? Because I think it's a half and half mix and bag. So, we had 3 different story arcs. Obviously, we know everyone's favorite, so I'm going to do it by story arcs and start off that way. So let's start off with the first one, pretty much called The Bad Batch. Lisa, what did you think of the story arc?
I mean, I liked it. I thought it was interesting. It's definitely one of those things that, like they kind of touched a little bit during the original series of the Clone Wars. Like clones that just weren't up to par, that didn't make the cut, not like with 99 or whatever. Yeah. Uh-huh. So, I mean, you already kind of knew that not all the clones became clone soldiers, but they, you have to think about it. I mean, it seems obvious that when you're making clones that there may be times when you could, I mean, they're clones, like they're genetically engineering all these people. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it seems reasonable that they might take certain characteristics and kind of breed that into certain people. So I think the Bad Batch was really interesting.
Yeah.
And I think the fact that they call it Clone Force 99 versus 99 was the character.
Yeah, of course. The old man, the rejected one. Yes.
Yes. So I thought it was really interesting. I definitely thought the stories were cool. I liked what each character could do. I thought it was neat. I mean, I didn't love it. I wasn't like, can't wait for the next episode. But I thought it was interesting.
It was very, like I said, the one thing that's kind of nice, the whole Clone Wars, is that it's, given the faces and personalities to the clones, where that you can see they're not just, all the same person, that they change the way they look through their experiences. They have different personalities. There was one episode where you saw one clone had defected even and started a family. Mm-hmm. It basically, you got to look at the clones as people is what this series really did. And you got to see that they're all kind of different clones, even though they all came from the same place. And again, Bad Batch is one of them. It's kind of like they're like a Dirty Dozen kind of group. You know, they're the rejects, but you know, because of that, they banded together and became a well-oiled unit in that respect. So the problem is, of course, with me, you know, the thing I love about Star Wars is the Jedi, the Sith, the Force, all that stuff. So the whole clone angle, while I do appreciate it, not my favorite episodes. You know, if I go back and rewatch Clone Wars episodes, they're not the clone-centered episodes. So
the ones that you like are not.
Yeah, exactly.
Right,
so so while I appreciate them, and I appreciate this and what this, you know, talked about or what it represents, again, it didn't excite me. I mean, honestly, out of those, you know, 4 episodes, what I took away was, you know, Anakin's conversation with Padme is really the main highlight for me from all 4 episodes.
No, I mean, I agree. I think most people, I think that's one of the things in general that people, we talk about this a lot with where they're going to go with films and stuff. It's like, well, we keep saying they need to go backward instead of forward because what draws people to Star Wars is the Jedi.
Yeah.
And without the Jedi, like, people may like it still and it's still interesting, like I've said before, Rogue One's one of my favorite films and there's really no Jedi in that one. But it's still like the Jedi is ultimately what people want.
Yeah.
And so, I agree. I think that the ones with the clones, they're interesting. They add a lot to, there's a lot of dimension there that you need. But they're not necessarily our favorite ones.
Yeah, necessarily. I mean, like I said, my favorite part was the scene with Anakin and Padme. And kind of with this scene, you got the idea that not only Rex kind of knows about Anakin's secret, but also Obi-Wan, or at least hints that he might know something, but maybe doesn't know how far it's gone with Anakin and Padme. What did you get from that scene?
No, I think exactly that. Like, it definitely Rex knows something's going on. And, it definitely showed Obi-Wan. Come on. Obi-Wan's not fucking stupid. Like, the amount of time that he spends with Anakin, you really think he didn't know about Anakin and Padme? He knew how Anakin felt about Padme before Padme and Anakin were even a thing.
It's true.
Like, Obi-Wan obviously knew. He was, duh.
Yeah, he just, I think...
He didn't want to know, so he...
Well, I think, it is one of those things where, Anakin was, his friend, his brother, and also, I think he also saw kind of that little bit of, him and Satine relationship between those two, so he felt he kind of relate to it and maybe give him a little of a break as well on all of it too. But okay. But yeah, the Bad Batch episodes, fine episode, just, again, not my cup of tea, not your cup of tea. So then we jump to episode 5, where we have a 4... episode arc, basically reintroducing Ahsoka. And last we saw Ahsoka at the end of season 5 of the Clone Wars, she was walking away from the Jedi Order, away from Anakin. And I remember those episodes because, I was one of those guys that watched it when the show was airing, and they had just announced that Clone Wars was ending, actually. And so we knew it was like the last episode we were probably going to see. And Ahsoka walks away, and we're like, this is how they end the series? They're ending the series like this? What the hell? It was interesting. But then it solved the problem always of what we thought in the back of our minds was, okay, Ahsoka's not in episode 3, so at some point she has to, die. But we're like, oh, wait, no, she walks away. Okay, so she's not there for Order 66. She's still alive, That whole thing. But with this one, she's walked away from the Jedi Order. I don't know how much time has passed. I keep trying to look up how much time has passed between then and when we see her in season 7.
I have been wanting that as well because the whole Clone Wars itself was only, 3 years?
Technically 3 years, yes.
Yeah. So if you think about it, from when she becomes Anakin's Padawan, the Clone Wars have already started.
Yes.
So, it can't have been...
maybe like a month?
This can't have been that long after she walked away.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think they are just taking some creative license with the time.
Yeah, I think they are. The way I've researched it, it's a little bit more like 3.5 years, but still, 7 seasons and everything that happens in this show, you're telling me that's 3 years?
Well, and just how much Ahsoka, has come, her maturity and, physical growth. Look how much longer her her Leiku got from when she started. And I mean, I don't know how fast Togrutas grow.
You're thinking as far as age-wise, she's 13, I think, when she's first introduced.
I mean, I don't know. They never really say.
I think she goes from like 13 to 17 or something like that. Mm-hmm. I think throughout the series. So you do have that in there. But anyway, she's reintroduced. She meets up with the sisters, Trace and Rafa, and she gets thrown into this adventure with them against the Pikes. Along the way, she meets up with Bo-Katan and gets pulled into the whole Mandalore thing that we'll talk about in a minute. Mm-hmm. Again, not my favorite set of episodes, so to speak. Really what I took away from this was Ahsoka has lived her whole life in the temple. She's lived, on the higher levels of Coruscant. Now she meets these sisters who live on the lower levels, and she sees how the Jedi actions or how the actions are affecting the people in the lower levels of Coruscant. People that, they're trying to protect, but at the same time, they never really get a chance to actually know in that respect. But what do you think of this?
No, I mean, I like this. I like this. This section of the show kind of, I thought it reminded me a lot of A New Dawn, the book, when talking about how, like, when Kanan was trying not to be a Jedi. Uh-huh. I mean, this is kind of what this was. It was Ahsoka trying not to be a Jedi. Yeah. Trying to live and go through her days and her life as a normal person, but not knowing how to be normal because, like you said, she's always lived in the temple. Yeah. So her trying not to use her powers, not, trying to forego her connection to the Force because she's, so I mean, I thought it was really interesting because it was just kind of looking back to how Kanan, what he did and how he tried to live, and this was very similar to that. So I felt like they had a lot of the same struggles, and so you could kind of see, like, when she was trying to do the right thing, but also trying not to be a Jedi, and kind of, reminded me back to those parts of that book when Kanan was doing the same type of thing. Yeah, so I agree. I thought it was really interesting. But then her also coming to realize that she could still be helpful.
Help people, yes.
And help people, right, using her powers. But I did think it was really interesting, too, her, kind of seeing how the people in the lower levels viewed the Jedi, how they didn't all see them as, like, the benevolent,
heroes, protectors. Yeah.
And that kind of reminded me also to things that I've read in some of the books, too, where some of the Jedi Masters in the past had wanted the Padawans and the younglings to go out into the universe more, to do more, like to see more of the world, to not be so sheltered by, by the walls of the temple. And so I thought this was interesting too, because it's showing how it kind of was a detriment to the Jedi in some way, that they were raised so sheltered. So I thought it was really interesting. I thought it brought up a lot of really interesting issues. It showed a lot just about family and I liked him.
So let's move on here. Okay, let's get to the meat of it all. The thing everyone was looking for when it comes to Season 7, the Siege of Mandalore. At the end of the last episode, Bo-Katan hunts down Ahsoka, asks for her help to help with the situation with Maul and Mandalore. She meets up with Anakin and Obi-Wan. And from there, it's pretty much a roller coaster ride all the way to the end of the series. So I want to break this one down by episode. So first off, Season 9, Episode 8, Old Friends Not Forgotten. This is the one where Ahsoka meets back up with Obi-Wan and Anakin. And the Bo-Katan and Ahsoka are asking Obi-Wan and Anakin for help to deal with Maul and Mandalore. But of course, they have to run off to save the Chancellor. But Anakin decides to promote Rex and leave part of the 501st with her to go fight Maul on Mandalore. What did you think of this episode?
I liked it. I mean, I thought it was interesting. Well, just with this whole last four, seeing how it fit in with Revenge of the Sith. Yeah. Seeing what was happening at all these different places. Because just from what we've known from before, we know Ahsoka and Rex survive. And, like you and I had talked before about in the Clone Wars, how Rex knew about the chip. And so we were like, it has to be something to do with the chip. But they never really, embellished on it. So I thought this episode was interesting, a couple things that I took away from it was the conversation that Ahsoka and Obi-Wan have when Obi-Wan and Anakin go to save the Chancellor. I really like that Ahsoka kind of, not that she didn't stand up to them before because she always spoke her mind, but how she's almost become, well, just because of her experience, she's very jaded now. She's very not judgmental. I can't think of the word. She's very critical of what the Jedi are doing, but I think especially her talking to Obi-Wan about that, I thought was really interesting, considering Obi-Wan's master was Qui-Gon, who was also very disenfranchised with the council, and his master was Dooku, who was also disenfranchised with the council. So I think it's interesting that Obi-Wan now has that coming at him from both sides. Like, he has seen it in his masters, that opinion about the council and about the Jedi and what they're doing, and he now is seeing it also with the people that he's been. I mean, he's not officially her master, but you know what I mean. He
helped
master's
train her,
master,
yes.
right? You know, so I thought that was really interesting, and I would be interested to see in his mind what he was thinking about, you know, like if we could get into his head during that scene to know what he was thinking when she was saying those things to him, because I'm sure he had heard things like that before from Qui-Gon and Dooku. So I thought I liked that scene. I just think that part was really interesting.
I mean, I like it also for other reasons. I mean, partially what we talked about was, I think part of the reason, you know, Ahsoka agrees to help the Mandalorians or to help Bo-Katan is because of her experience in the previous episodes, helping the people that she feels like actually needs her help versus, you know, like you said, Obi-Wan and Anakin want to run off to help Coruscant, and she's like, no, you mean the Chancellor.
Right, exactly. Like, she's just trying to, she has come to realize what other people had, that the Jedi no longer serve the people. They serve the Senate. As opposed to serving the people of the galaxy. And so, yeah, I thought that was, I really liked that scene. For being very short, was like fraught with like emotion, and, you know, just a lot happened in the very short period of time right there.
Yeah, and also I felt like there was that pushback, of course, too, where, yes, Ahsoka does have a little different point of view, and a little different duty, I guess you would say, to the galaxy now. But also, I felt like, again, there's that little bit of, you know, even when she goes back to the council in a couple episodes, there's maybe she's still holding a little bit of a grudge against everyone except for Anakin, because Anakin's really the Obi-Wan who really stood up for her. Exactly, is what it was. Speaking of Anakin, they meet back up again, and of course, you know, we'll get the whole lightsaber and the 501st here in a sec, but one thing you notice in regards to Anakin is, you know, he's trying to put in perspective the chain of events. The Force is, you know, kicked Ahsoka out of the order so this could happen, you know, trying to justify everything, how it's all going to be all right. But also, in the scene where he meets back up with Ahsoka, he wants to pick up where they left off, but, you know, she's not the same person, I guess, when she left. He doesn't like change, you know. It's all about Anakin holding on to things, you know, trying to save his mother, trying to save Padme, and, you know, trying to hold on to Ahsoka a little more when really, you know, he needs to let go of her, is really what it was.
Which goes back to the very first beginning of the Clone Wars film.
Exactly.
I mean, that is exactly what
that's
they
what
talked
Yoda,
about.
That's what Yoda wanted. That's why Yoda wanted to give him a Padawan, because he needed to learn the lesson of letting go,
and
which he never did. Obviously. So exactly,
it didn't work.
It did not work with that too. But yeah, so then she steps back in and sees the 501st. Rex and the rest of the guys have their helmets painted in honor of her, and Anakin has changed her lightsabers a little bit to blue. Which is something, of course, there. You can say that, again, a little bit of ego, perhaps, on Anakin's part for that. But also, I think it goes with it as you go throughout the rest of the episodes, where it kind of gives Anakin's presence throughout the whole rest of the series, too, I think, leading to the very last scene, which we'll talk about here shortly, too. So, but Ahsoka goes and has a stunning action sequence and races Rex to the surface where they go, and then she meets up with Maul, and that's where we end the episode, directly leading into the next episode, The Phantom Apprentice. This one, they just get juicier, I think. As these episodes go on, they just got juicier and juicier. So Maul finds that Ahsoka has come, and it's one of those things too, is I'm like, okay, like Maul, when you look at Clone Wars, he never met Ahsoka from what we know. He never met Anakin. He was mainly dealing with Obi-Wan, is what it was, because that's where his focus was. So, and I was thinking about that too, and I was like, oh yeah, he doesn't know who Ahsoka is, so he tries to learn her by capturing Jesse as well, trying to pull information from him literally. From his mind. And then, of course, eventually you get to the final climactic scene between her and Maul where he is again captured. Thoughts on the episode?
I mean, I don't even know where to start. Like, this episode is so cool. Like, that fight scene, like, between... I mean, it's just amazing. Like, especially when you know that it's mocap. And you can tell, like, that fight scene was mocap. Because, like, especially if you go back and watch... of the other Clone Wars episodes where there were fight sequences. I mean, this fight sequence was just like a whole new level.
They moved real, whereas, other fights in Clone Wars, they were much more animated, I feel like.
Yeah, this one, like, it literally looked like... I mean, this was an amazing fight scene. Like, I mean, just epic. I mean, I think for Maul, like, when he's fighting her, I think it probably, for him, felt a little bit like when he was fighting, when he would fight Obi-Wan, because... Anakin, when his fighting style, he's just all about it. Like, angry, aggressive. Where, like, Ahsoka is more like Obi-Wan, where she kind of has a little bit of banter when she fights sometimes. And so I felt like, but not as much as Obi-Wan. It's kind of in between. So I feel like she's a better fighter than Obi-Wan, closer toAnakin, but more of a little bit of she's almost like a blend of Obi-Wan and Anakin.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
And that's the best way to describe her, because yes, she was Anakin's Padawan, but Anakin and Obi-Wan were always a team, so she was always with Obi-Wan as well too.
Yeah, and I think you can tell that. I think that's one of the reasons why she is such a good Jedi. Like because she can take lessons from both of them. Like I think you can see in her fighting style. Just how good she is of a fighter. Like, she learned that from Anakin. Like, you can tell, like, she learned her fighting stance, her battle. Like, she learned that from Anakin. But you can see also in just the way that she, like, negotiates and the way that she interacts with people, her compassion. You can see that is Obi-Wan's, influence on her, I think.
Yeah, definitely. All right, let's get to the conversation. So the whole time, we come to find out that Maul... of course, the last time we saw Maul, as far as in the timeline, is if you read Son of Dathomir, which connects the dots between the end of Season 5 to this episode, or the previous episode, when he comes back to Mandalore. And there's a brief mention in here about how Death Watch, or his new formed group, were the ones that saved him from the Emperor. There's a little blurb about it. If you want to know more, go back and read Son of Dathomir, the Star Wars comic book. You'll see all about that. But then, of course, that he knows the Emperor's plan. He knows kind of what's going on, what Sidious is a basic idea of what Sidious is planning. And one of the reasons that he was surprised to see Ahsoka there, because he wanted Obi-Wan, and he wanted Obi-Wan because he feel like he was going to bring Anakin, who he really wanted because he knew that was the key part to Sidious's plan, and he was going to take him out so that Sidious couldn't complete his master plan of what he wanted. And it's that episode 2, the voice performances by Sam Witwer and Ashley Eckstein in this were great. I mean that one part where Maul tells Ahsoka that, hey, it's Anakin, he's gonna become Sidious's apprentice, and the tone of her voice that she's like, no, not Anakin. That was great voice acting. Like that was a great tone. The way she spoke the line, I really enjoyed it a lot too. What did you think of the scene?
No, I thought it was great. I mean, I always think that Sam Witwer, especially, like when he does Maul, like, I mean, he does this. I'm not just saying this because I have a super crush on him. No, like seriously, he does such a great job doing Maul's voice. Like you can feel Maul, like when Maul's supposed to be extra crazy, like he does it great. When Maul's supposed to be extra conniving, he does it great. When Maul is like serious and in the zone, like he does. I mean, he just does. I mean, he knows him. He just becomes that character. And obviously, I mean, I love Ahsoka. She's my favorite. So like, I think it's really interesting in this season how Ashley did her voice, because you can hear the maturity.
Yeah, exactly.
She really played her, acted her, and showed how that period of time she was away from the Jedi, how it aged her, like how she matured during that time. And I think she did just how everything, she's not quick to anger like Anakin is. You know, like she's more like Obi-Wan in that. She's kind of more calm, collected. She keeps it together even when she is angry. And I thought it was that scene, especially between them, was really great.
Yeah, I mean, the going back, Sunday we watched the Clone Wars movie, and jumping from that to this, you see the maturity of the character. I watched an episode of Rebels yesterday, and I saw, again, how she went from this to that, and I'm like, the growth they did with this character throughout, the two series was phenomenal.
Well, especially if you compare, like, the timeline, from where she comes in the Clone Wars film to where we see her in Rebels, is approximately the same timeline that we knew Anakin.
Yeah.
And look at where he came. Like his character's growth, he doesn't. Yeah. He's very stagnant. Anakin is who he is, period. He's a whiny bitch from the beginning to the end. I mean, for real, right? I mean, that's just...
Okay.
Come on.
Oh, yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I'll give him credit for the Clone Wars, of course. But yes, in the films, indefinitely, of course. We always say that.
Yeah, I mean, that's just how... But, I mean, I just mean his character is like that. I mean, I like the character in the Clone Wars way better than I like in the films. But I just think even if you take the films, the whatever, in terms of his character development, like, Anakin doesn't... He doesn't grow up. You know what I mean? Like... He
doesn't let go.
He doesn't let go. Right. He holds on to things, and he doesn't... He knows what he wants, and he thinks he should just get it without having to mature.
It's not fair.
Right. And I mean, he says that kind of stuff from the very beginning. Like, just kind of comparing it to Luke. Luke starts out that way. In A New Hope, Luke is also a little bit of a whiny bitch. I mean, he just... You know what I mean? Like,
he's just naive.
He's just naive, exactly. But the thing is, he grows. If you look at where he goes from that to Return of the Jedi...
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, look at Luke's... His development as a character. His overall maturity and, just growth in general. And then you look at how Anakin goes in his experience. Through he starts and ends at the same place. Angry, feeling like the whole world is against him, not wanting to take responsibility for any of his actions. That's just Anakin. But that's why I like, kind of, you compared where Ahsoka came. Like, I don't know. She's I just think she's a better character.
Yes, I agree with you on that, I think, in that respect. And then towards the end there, you see Maul was talking about this whole thing he conspired just to try to bring Obi-Wan and Anakin to Mandalore, even when is Gar Saxon? That's his name.
Yeah.
When he's like, "Hey, we need reinforcements, sir," and he's like, "I don't care about you. Bye." He didn't care about it at all.
He said, like, literally, "Have a great death." Those were almost his words. It was something along those lines.
Yes, exactly. And then he tries to take out Ahsoka again, but Ahsoka gets the best of him, and then Maul knows he's done for. He's like, "No, kill me, just kill me. We're all gonna die," because he knows what's coming. He knows what's coming, and what's coming is the next episode, Shattered, which is part 3 of this whole storyline, and it was Order 66. And the whole first half of the episode, I give Kevin Kiner so much credit. For
the music. Oh, dude, the moment that episode started, it was that, like, creepy, eerie... Like, we weren't already super on edge, and then the music just, like, made you,
Yeah, exactly. It was that, like, you know the killer's coming, It's like, ta, 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 ta. You knew it was happening. You knew it was coming. Eventually, given, where we knew we were getting to in the timeline, especially when Ahsoka goes and talks to the council, and it's the exact same scene right after they sent Anakin to go talk to the Chancellor, and the Chancellor, of course, reveals himself to be Sidious to Anakin, and you're right there in it, and that creepy music the whole time, you knew it was coming, and man, ugh. Oh, it was good stuff. So let's start at the beginning. Of course, they capture Maul, they're dragging him out, and they have him in this, like, I don't know, a force box or whatever you call it.
Something like that.
Well, in old legends or whatever, there was the Mandalorian Wars, is what they called it, and that's the big giant war between the Mandalorians and the Republic otherwise known as the Jedi. So it would make sense if something like that were to happen, which nothing's been confirmed in current canon about it. They'd have these boxes to help, fight the force wielders, so to speak. And Bo-Katan says that her sister got rid of most of them, and this was the last one. I don't believe that for a second, actually. I thought that box was going to come into more play, though. Like maybe it was going to help Ahsoka in some way, or something was going to happen it was going to come to more of a play, but it didn't. It was just, Maul's cage, so to speak, for that. So then Ahsoka goes and talks to the council, and again, great scene. There's so much there about her interacting with Mace with the whole citizen line.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, so I did my job as a citizen, and then Mace is like, well, as a citizen, you can't know that information.
Yeah.
It was like man, they're trying to play to. Again, I feel like it's some of that resentment for Ahsoka's still a little sore at the council members or the Jedi that didn't defend her. Back when she was in trouble.
Yeah, and I think Mace has his panties in a twist a little bit.
As we figured out, Mace Windu's an asshole.
He really is.
He is.
Especially after we just recently did our book report about Dark Disciple. He's kind of a dick in that one too.
Exactly.
You really come to kind of see.
To be fair, he's a leader, and the leaders have to make the tough decisions.
Yeah, but Yoda would never make the decisions that
Yoda's
Mace
not
does.
the leader. Mace Windu is.
I know. I know that, but the council is all leaders, is what I'm saying. Yeah. They're all supposed to be leaders, and they go along with him sometimes because he is the actual leader. But I trust Yoda's judgment much more.
Fair enough.
And he doesn't usually agree with Mace.
So Yoda hangs back. Everyone, disappear. Yoda hangs back, and he's asking Ahsoka if she has more to say. We know, at this point she's learned what Maul said about Anakin. But so do you think? Here's what I got from that. Number one, it was Yoda's actual concern for Ahsoka, but also at the end of season 6, Yoda learns that dark things are coming, and maybe he's more cautious of things, and maybe senses that what Ahsoka's seen and what she's been dealing with, especially since it's Darth Maul, the apprentice to the man or person they've been hunting all these years. Maybe he's trying to get information from her. How did you interpret what Yoda's trying to get from her?
I mean, I don't know that he necessarily was trying to get. I think he could just tell that she had something to say.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think he knew, or I think he just could tell that. You have to think about it. Yoda spent a large majority of his time working with the younglings. He spent a lot of time developing the Padawans.
Yeah, he trained Ahsoka.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think he just is a little bit more patient with the ones that, maybe that's one of the reasons that Mace kind of comes off that way as opposed to Yoda. As Yoda,
the yin to the yang.
Right. I mean, Yoda's more patient. He's used to dealing with, for lack of a better word, children. So I think he could just tell that she was conflicted still, and that she had something to say. And maybe he was just hoping she would confide in him. I don't think he necessarily knew that it was anything about,
not
particularly
the bigger picture, perhaps, or so.
I mean, but he's always has been more attuned to what was coming than the others, it seemed like.
Yeah, that's true. So Ahsoka about to take off and says her goodbyes to Bo-Katan. Ursa Wren is there, and we were talking about it too. At this point, Sabine has already been born. She's probably a toddler at this point. With that too, but we get that little Easter egg there.
No, she's more than a toddler. She's probably what? She's a few years older than Ezra.
So we're 15 when Rebel starts. It's 15 years.
Right, Ezra's 15
since episode 3, and she's a couple years older. So she's got to be
I mean, if Ezra's 15,
she's probably point, maybe 2, 3 at the most.
She's only 2 or 3 years older than Ezra.
Yeah, only a couple years.
I always got the feeling that she was older than that.
We can look it up. I think it was only a couple of years though,
because she had already been to. I mean, this is a whole
academy
separate,
and
I felt like she was older than 17 or 18.
We'll look it up afterwards. I don't want to look it up right now.
Yeah, anyway.
We'll figure it out.
Sidetrack.
But anyway, yes, those were. And then there's the goodbye between Ahsoka and Bo. And, it was interesting. I wish we had gotten more with these two characters, because I feel like there's a lot more. Because when we see them ask and go to Anakin and Obi-Wan for help, they said that they've been tracking Maul for months. So from one episode to the other, months have passed. There's your whole messing with the Clone Wars timeline again right there. We're running out of time here. But that time they'd seen me get more of a bond between the two of them, and the way they said goodbye, like they didn't just shake hands, they had like the whole holding the wrist thing as well too. Feels like they established quite the bond, perhaps. And some people, of course, are reading into this more. Oh, that means Bo-Katan's going to be in the Mandalorian too, along with Ahsoka, and that kind of thing. But
I think that what it does kind of show you is why maybe Ahsoka and Sabine got along so well.
It's true.
Once they become connected in Rebels, Ahsoka, if she had become good friends with Bo,
she understands the Mandalorian culture.
Yeah.
Has a good grasp on it. Yeah, I totally understand. All right, so then we get on the ship and it's underway, heading towards Coruscant. All speeds ahead, and Ahsoka and Rex have a very great conversation.
Oh, yeah.
About this one, talking about Ahsoka's perspective during the Clone Wars versus Rex's. Ahsoka talking about, she's been a Padawan this entire war, and, Jedi are supposed to be peacekeepers, but all she's ever been is a soldier, versus Rex, who's like, we were made to fight this war, and that's all we know. Without the war, we wouldn't be alive.
What is our purpose?
Exactly.
Now?
What is our purpose
without it? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's some interesting conversations.
And also, in that conversation, their bond,
yes.
Like how they, Ahsoka saying, not only are you guys great soldiers, but you're my friend.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, establishing their bond, of course, but also, throughout this episode and previous episodes, much how the whole 501st changed their helmets, the soldiers, the people in the Republic are constantly saluting her for, out of respect, out of admiration, and also a bit out of friendship too, because they fought with her for years, and they know her, they like her, they respect her.
Well, I think it's different because I think one of the things looking at this, you could say, well, how is it that of all the clones, Rex was the only one that was able to fight the inhibitor chip? Because he did.
Yes, he did.
He fought it at first, when he told her, find fives, and then, yeah. But, so, you have to look at it and say, what's different about Rex? Or what's different about Rex and Ahsoka's relationship than the other Jedi that were, how was it so easy for Commander Cody to turn on Obi-Wan, but Rex not, would he have done the same thing if Anakin had been there?
Yes,
versus
true.
Ahsoka. And I think he would have done the same thing that Cody did if it was Anakin. I think the bond that he had with Ahsoka was different because she was a child when
yes.
she came to this. So
and being a clone, he was technically pretty new himself as well.
Well, not necessarily that. I think it's just the relationship he had with her was different. He and Anakin always had. Anakin was the general. He was his boss, where Ahsoka was more a peer.
Yeah.
Not.
I agree with that.
What I mean? So I think with the other clones, their Jedi that was like their general was their boss. They weren't their friend. They were their boss. Where Ahsoka was legitimately his friend. And I think that was part of the thing that allowed him to fight it long enough to give her that little bit of a chance to kind of get a head start. And for him to give her that little hint, because their relationship was different than the clones with the other Jedi general. Maybe, and maybe because she was just such a playful character, I don't know, other Padawans, because then you think, well, maybe the other Padawans that were out there fighting with their masters were the same, but... But I don't know. We don't know how many other. We know that Kanan.
We have the comic book, of course.
Right, but in Kanan's case, his master saved him.
Exactly.
Which is. But anyway, I thought that I just thought that was interesting looking at that, because I was wondering that, why did it happen like that?
Oh, I love the way they did it though. So Rex gets pulled in. He gets the Order 66, and she goes to kind of say, "Hey, I've had this vision about Anakin. I think he's in trouble." And Rex starts to shake, and he tries to tell her, "Hey, fives."
Well, and you see he has like a tear.
That's what I'm saying. The tears. he's trying to fight it with every fiber in his being.
Like you can see how it's like physically hurting him.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
That he knows he has to kill her, and like he doesn't want to do it.
No, exactly. But it's one of those things too. Is like even if that hadn't happened, I mean, if he didn't have such strong will to at least try to fight it, I mean, he would have turned around and bam.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like that tiny hesitation that he was able gave her the chance that she needed.
Yeah, exactly. Not only to prepare herself to defend herself, but also, of course, lay the breadcrumb to find out what happened to Five and
to help him. Right.
Exactly. And then the blast. Oh my God, that blaster scene
where
she gets on the table and just goes around and just like defending the hell. And it's so much blaster that all this smoke allows her to escape
through
well. Oh, that was the way it was animated and the lightsabers were twirling and everything. Mm-hmm. But at this point, you gotta be thinking, God damn, this, these soldiers, not only, has she been through a lot with them, Rex included, of course, but, they just painted their helmets to honor her, and then now they're trying to kill her.
Yeah.
What's she going through? But, one thing I thought might happen is she goes to find Maul and escapes. And at that point, I always thought it was like, okay, if, she's on the ship and the clones turn against her, she's going to need some kind of adversary. And I'm like, I wonder if she teams up with Maul. And she gets there and I'm like, oh, she's going to team up with Maul. And then she's like, go off, go cause chaos. I'm not teaming up with you. Mm-hmm. I just need a diversion.
And oh boy, the chaos.
Oh man,
is that amazing or what?
Maul chaos. Oh man,
holy cow! With no lightsabers, like what he does.
And going with this too, of course, there were so many. This episode itself had several like Rogue One nods, the Force. I had one with the Force is with me, but that Maul hallway scene, very reminiscent of the Vader. Just a Force user going off and just kicking ass, and it's a brutal scene, much like it was in Rogue One. And if they had actually, tried to show more realistic of what he was doing, because he was cutting off heads and cutting off arms, and if they could have made that more realistic, there would have been blood everywhere.
I mean, this right here is one of the things whenever people say, oh, Clone Wars, that's a kid's show, like it may have started that way, but this is not just a kid's show anymore.
Exactly. Do you see that conversation I had with Elliot?
Yes, I did.
Yes, exactly. And I'm like, you're not watching the right episodes,
Yeah, I mean, it started very kiddie.
If you started season 1, of course, I totally get it.
But that's the whole thing. If you think about it, the Clone Wars is Ahsoka's journey. That's really what it is, by and large. It's the journey of the clones and the journey of Ahsoka. And if you look at, she started out as a kid and now she's an adult. And the theme of the show follows suit.
Yeah, she grows up.
She grows up. And the show grows up.
And that's what George wanted. George said too, is like, look, season 1 of the Clone Wars, that's like for like a 10-year-old, okay? And then season 2's for an 11-year-old. Season 3's for, a 12-year-old, and so on. So again, if you're at that age and you get to season 7, obviously we've skipped a couple of years here, having a 6-year break and all. But just by the time you get to season 5, you're talking someone who, if they're 10, they're 15, 16 years old. That mature level right up there is what they should be.
Yeah, but even though this is much more adult themes, this is still fine for a kid.
Exactly. Yeah,
it's still kid appropriate. Like you said, there is no blood.
Exactly. That's what it is. It's violent, but there's no blood, and that's how it is. With a lot of entertainment, it's like you can get away with a lot of violence as long as there's not a lot of bad words or nudity.
Well, yeah, it just has to do with how the violence is portrayed.
Yeah.
Like you said, we know what Maul's doing to those clones, but it's mostly off scene.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and that's how they did the shots they chose,
Right, exactly.
We know what's happening, we just don't see it.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, he cuts off the one guy's arm and then he picks up his arm for the communicator, with that too. I'm all just wreaking havoc. So then Ahsoka goes and finds R7, which I don't remember R7. But I know R7 was in previous episodes, but I don't remember.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Well.
Ahsoka just always has a connection with the droids.
Well, I think she gets that from Anakin too.
Yeah.
Anakin has
the appreciation.
The appreciation, exactly, too. And she treats them very equal too, of course, much like Anakin does, where a lot of people are just like, they're droids.
Stupid droid,
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
but
I mean, and they definitely go into that a lot in the Clone Wars. I mean, like, remember the whole thing when R2 was captured
lost.
and like they were trying to convince convince Anakin to use another one, and he was all like, "This thing is crap. Where's R2?" You know, like
exactly.
Yeah, yes. Ahsoka definitely learned that from him to treat the droids with respect.
And she finds the recording by Rex. You know, his log about what happened to Fives, and you know, if he hadn't done that log, then you know, again, and that Ahsoka might not have figured out what's going on. She captures Rex, she gets the chip out of him, and then they have to escape, which of course leads us to the very last episode. It is called Victory and Death. Not Victory or Death, it's Victory and Death. And this is Ahsoka, Rex, and Maul trying to escape the ship as it's going down.
Yeah, but it's going down because of Maul.
Because of Maul. Because Maul decides he's going to, you know, do exactly what Ahsoka wanted him to do. And, you know, just cause a big old distraction. Destroy the hyperdrive, you know.
I do think it was cool how they showed what happens to a ship if you pull it out of hyperspace.
Right. Yeah.
Like, it literally just, like, tears the ship apart.
Oh, yeah, of course, you know, because you're trying to deal with that. So they're trying to get off, Rex and Ahsoka, along with the droids. And again, another great piece of conversation between, you know, Rex and Ahsoka. And they see the clones led by Jesse. And, you know, he's like, they're willing to die. They don't care. And Ahsoka with the great line. She's like, they may be willing to die, but I'm not willing to kill them. Again, because these people are their friends. His brothers, you know. It goes back to that classic line with Yoda and Ezra in Rebels. And, you know, where he has the vision, he's talking to Yoda, and he's talking about, oh, we're going to fight, you know, we're going to win. And Yoda's like, it's how you choose to win, you know. It's how you fight that really matters, you know. It's, you know, what you do and how you act, I guess.
Which I think shows between Ahsoka and Anakin how different they are. Like, you know, what Ahsoka will do to, air quotes, win, versus what Anakin is willing to do.
Well, at this point in time, Anakin is fighting his best friend and mentor. So, yes.
And he's just killed all the younglings.
Exactly. He's killed everyone he's ever known, pretty much.
Yeah. But he's shown before what he's willing to do. I mean, where Ahsoka has always taken the higher road.
Yeah. So with the help of the droids, they fight their way through. They use some lifts to help them out. That whole spinning move Ahsoka does.
Yeah, with the floor.
Oh, man, that was so cool, too.
Yeah.
So then Maul's trying to escape in the pod, and Ahsoka's trying to
stop him,
mainly because that's their last ship that they know of, okay? But R7 takes a hit. He's gone.
All the droids.
Rex is starting to take it, so she chooses to let Maul go to save, you know, them. Or her friends, Rex, all them, stuff like that. The two droids, of course, Cheap and Gigi, I believe is what they're called. That was harsh.
So sad.
That was harsh. You know, again, like I was talking, I was like, you know, it's like the droids are like the loyal companions, the dogs, so to speak. It's so, you know, it's like, you know, shooting old Yeller there. It was sad.
And they do such a great job to give all the droids little personalities. You know, like
it was sad.
Yeah, it was sad.
Exactly. So eventually, so they make it off, you know, through a death-defying sky stunt or whatever. They make it out of there. And it's one of those things, you knew they were making it out, too.
Extreme base jumping is what I called it.
Exactly. You did call it that, indeed. And with them, you knew they were going to make it out because, you know, with Rebels. So it was, again, it's how they make it out, you know. It's with anything. It's like a prequel or anything like that. It's not about if you know the ending. It's how you get there.
Well, and especially since, you know, I just recently, you know, we did our book report on the Ahsoka novel.
I was going to bring that up at the end.
The beginning of the Ahsoka novel is basically her and Rex.
The prologue.
That's the prologue of it. But so the novel obviously didn't know how they were going to play this out. So it doesn't talk about any of the other clones that are being buried. It just is Rex's grave, you know, even though he's not in it, and Ahsoka leaving her lightsaber, because the goal was for them to think that her and Rex were also dead. But now it just made it even more epic seeing not only her lightsaber in the grave, but all the clones there.
But the blue one was Rex's, probably, right?
No, that was Jesse's.
Oh, was it?
The one they showed at the end?
Was it?
That was Jesse's.
I figured that's... I'll get another look
because it had
the
different... Jesse's is the one that had, like, the symbol of the Empire on it.
Hold on. Yeah, I know what it is.
Rex's had the little triangles.
Yeah, here it is.
That's Jesse's.
Okay, that's Jesse's too. Because I feel like it'd be one of those things, again, well, you know, if you put his helmet there, it would signify...
that's the thing. This last scene, the one where it was when Vader comes later, I was really wishing that would have been Rex's helmet.
Oh, that would have been good.
Because that, especially since in that book... she leaves her lightsaber by Rex's grave. And I was really hoping that I was like really kind of bummed that isn't Rex's helmet. Because even though I get that they're trying to show that it's the Ahsoka, that so he can recognize that it's his squadron, like, he would have recognized Rex's helmet.
Yeah, exactly.
So I really wish that would have been Rex's helmet. That's like the one thing I'm disappointed in here.
I feel like he did leave his helmet, though, because he wasn't wearing it.
No, it's there somewhere.
Yeah, it's there somewhere. It's just not up front and center.
Right.
Is what it is with it. So I was going to hold off on the Ahsoka novel till the end, but you brought it up, so I want to bring it up here, is canon. Now, again, of course, the Ahsoka book was written before Filoni or anybody realized they were going to get to finish the Clone Wars. So has it, from my remembering it, goes a little differently to where, the whole thing with the clones turning on them happened on Mandalore and not on the ship.
Specify that. They never specify that. That was the one thing I've been trying to... So the only difference in the novel, she does say that she leaves her lightsaber and Rex's grave. They don't address any other potential graves, just Rex's. You assume they're on Mandalore.
Okay.
But it doesn't actually specify. Okay. If I can remember, it does not actually specify that they're on Mandalore.
Yeah, and that's when I'll talk to you, because, actually, you recently read it. What does it say about Maul getting away?
I don't think it says anything about it.
Okay, it doesn't say anything about that.
She just has some memories of it. But that's the one thing, too, that kind of disappointed me in these last 4 episodes, is I really wanted him to say at least once, Lady Tano. Because she mentions that is in the book. There was 3. Those were there was 2 things that I found off. That besides the fact that they don't have the other graves, and that I wish that was Rex's helmet. I wish that he would have said Lady Tano at least once. And in the novel, her lightsabers are still green.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Anakin did not make them
I know
blue.
that. Yeah, I know that.
So I wish that they wouldn't have had him do that.
Yeah.
But there's that difference. In the novel, her lightsabers were still green. I really wish he would have called her Lady Tano. And it does not specify that they're on Mandalore. It's just, you assume that that's where they died.
Okay. Yeah, I mean,
I was, air quotes.
That's the thing. I figured I knew those things were minor differences. The other thing, of course, in regards to Rex's chip. I mean, in Rebels, he talks about how Gregor and Wolf took out their chips. Right? So I'm like, okay, well, obviously Ahsoka's the one that takes out his chip.
Well,
he doesn't do it willingly. But then to me, so now I'm looking at it to where, like, Rex, sequel, spin-off, book, comic,
like him going back and finding other clones.
Him going back and finding other clones and taking out their chips. And then you see how he gets from here to, I mean, I know the series is done. I don't want to see another series, but I want to see when do Rex and Ahsoka part?
No, they part right there.
I mean, they have to,
they literally leave because they only have one ship, but then they part ways. That they do say that in the Ahsoka novel.
So who takes off with the ship?
No, I think they take off on the ship together to get somewhere where one of them can get another ship.
And then they part,
But they choose at this point, the novel does say that, they choose at this point for their safety to part. Because they feel like the Empire thinks that they're both dead, and if they stay together, it's more likely.
Now I wish I would have gotten that goodbye. I would have cried at the goodbye if they had that here.
Yeah,
it was. I mean, I love the ending with the Ahsoka in her cloak, in front of all the honoring these people that yes, just tried to kill her, but
they were her friends.
They were her friends. They were and it was the music of, oh my god. Yeah. I listened on the way to go deliver those masks to Mike. That's the one I listened to that twice on the way there and back. That piece of music, and it's so good. And it's one thing with Kiner, like these whole last couple episodes, it has a very sci-fi music vibe, almost like I'm watching like Blade Runner or Aliens, where it's not specific John Williams Star Wars type music, where you get a lot of that too. That the tone and the tone it sets, it gives that more serious tone than you would normally hear or feel for a Star Wars movie too, which I thought was so great, and it just made the ending kind of epic in that tone. You caught though, of course, too, when Rex was bringing the shovel back to the ship, R7's there. They saved R7.
Oh no, I didn't see that.
Yeah, the R7 unit is there. He still got the hole in him, but it makes think like they're gonna maybe try to fix him or do something with him or whatever to honor him. Because like I said, I think he is in other episodes to where Ahsoka does have some kind of bond with the droid as well too. With that, and then of course, Ahsoka drops the lightsaber in the sand or dirt or whatever. Fast forward, we don't know how long we're fast forwarding to, but looks like we got stormtroopers, we got Imperial probe droids, and the Dark Lord of Sith himself, Darth Vader, shows up, and it's snowy. He looks at all the clone helmets, and he finds the lightsaber that he once gave back to Ahsoka, lights it up blue, looks at it, looks up and sees the owl. What's the owl's name again?
I don't know.
I forget. I heard it yesterday when I watched The World Between Worlds. But anyway, so first off, when he looks up and you see it, did you notice you see his eyes?
Yeah, it was like just
see,
in that left one.
Yeah, that left one. You saw his eye
like,
through the eyepiece. Yeah,
yeah.
The eyepiece.
It like had that like red reflection, and you could like see.
Exactly. Okay. So at first, I when I first watched the scene, I wanted to be like, oh, please say something like she's alive or something like that. But then I'm like, no. The way they did was perfect. Okay, what do you think is going through Vader's head? Do you he thinking maybe she's alive, maybe she's dead? You know, what do you think he is thinking at that point when he's holding the light? Is he reminiscing? Is he sad? What do you think he's thinking?
I mean, I think he thinks she's dead. I think for him it was confirmation that she died. Personally,
I think the lightsaber personally, but again, it's to me it's the owl. The owl flying above. I feel like if him looking up and knowing that owl is related to Ahsoka says, you know, basically one of two things.
But he doesn't know that.
Yeah, yes, he was there on Mortis when they formed the connection.
Yeah, but still, I think that for him, I don't think it meant that. I think it was just like, I don't know. I think that it confirmed to him that she was dead.
Do you think he was happy or sad about that?
No, I think he was sad, probably. He really cared about Ahsoka.
I mean, one of those things, too, could be, you know, possibly, given the fact that you're thinking it's still very early on, of course, him becoming Vader, that connection he had, you know, it could have been one of those things where, like, if Ahsoka had resurfaced, maybe, you know, it might have saved him.
No, I don't think it would have, though, because I think with him, like with Vader, even when he, you know, does meet her again later, you know, once he becomes Vader, his whole purpose is cutting ties to anything that made him Anakin. You know, he doesn't want anything that reminds him that he was Anakin. And she would have been a reminder of who he was.
And then, again, I feel like it would have played a little bit. Kind of like how, you know, I mean, obviously it was his son that brought him back from the dark side. Those strong connections, that's why he wanted to cut them off. That's what, you know, Palpatine used against him. Even, you know, after he already put on the armor as well, too. I feel like early on, you know, those first couple months or that first year or so, if that such person he had such a strong connection with would have came back, would have, you know, have brought him back much like his son did, or at least have him conflicted a little bit.
Yeah, maybe conflicted, but I still think he would have tried to kill her if she had brought it on, like if she had approached him.
So now, of course, what did Vader do with the lightsaber?
I don't know.
I got the question I want to know. What did he do with the lightsaber?
Maybe he has it in his like memory box from his past.
He's like Grievous. He collects the lightsabers of all the Jedi he's killed, and he adds it to the collection.
He probably has a lock of Padme's hair somewhere.
I think he does somewhere, something like that. I mean, probably. But yes. So, and that's it. That's where Clone Wars ends. Period. I don't think, you know, obviously we're gonna get more stories. I think we're probably gonna get more stories with Rex and Ahsoka before they hit Rebels. I can see that happening. We're getting the Clone Wars book, of course, coming out. I think it's August as well. Which now I'm curious if it's going to have anything to do with, you know, these last couple of episodes with that. But man, it's these last couple episodes they played like a movie. You know, we went back last night and we watched them one after the other, and it's, you know, one episode picks up right where the other one left off, so no time has lapsed, and it's, you know, it's I think it's meant to be watched. The epic scale of it is meant to be watched as a movie. But that's it for Clone Wars.
Yeah.
All right. So how are you feeling right now?
I'm sad. It's over.
Sad. Okay. I mean, it's one of those things too where it's like, I don't know. You know, where do we go from here? And it's really interesting too, because first off, I've said this before, and I posted this yesterday or the day before about Clone Wars was this thing that was the last thing George Lucas worked on, the creator himself, and now that's done. But also Star Wars as a whole, the Skywalker saga is ending, Clone Wars is ending. It's like this whole part of Star Wars is you're turning to the next chapter or starting the next book in a series almost. Everything that is old is coming to an end, and you're going to have to come up with completely new, fresh ideas, I guess you would say, from completely different people, so to speak. It's something.
Yeah.
So cool. All right, guys. Well, that is it, of course. Time to fire back. Let us know what you think about Season 7, the final season of the Clone Wars. What did you think about it? What did you think about the series as a whole? And, of course, what are your thoughts on the last couple episodes, which are the ones I think everyone pretty much cares about? Fire back on the social media groups and Gmail account. Let us know. That is going to be it for us today, guys. Go out, enjoy your day, enjoy your week. Until next time, may the Force be with us all.